John Gilbert, Part 4. Seeing what had happened with his glorious night and redemption, MGM became a little more aware of the times and put Jack in two vehicles that were more akin to what his peers were doing at that time in other films. Hard-working, tough guy types of roles. Way for a Sailor and Gentleman's Fate were his next two films. Both got mixed reviews, mostly due, again, to the writing and overall production value, yet again, and not for Jack's performances or his voice. While MGM was trying to sell Jack as a tough guy now, and a contemporary to Jimmy Cagney or Edward G. Robinson, they weren't choosing his scripts wisely. One critic wrote about Way for a Sailor, "Mr. Gilbert should really have a better story next time." One critic wrote for Gentleman's Fate, "It seems to be Jack's fate not to find the right picture for his spectacular personality." Why wasn't MGM getting it right for Jack when they were for other stars like Garbo or Norma Shearer? I think the evidence here has to point directly to Mayer. It seems unlikely that they could mess up 4 times in a row on accident without choosing the right film for Jack, who was, remember, their biggest star going into the Talkies. Also, Irving Thalberg, head of MGM production, had informed Jack that he would star opposite Garbo and Susan Lennox and Norma Shearer in A Free Soul in 1931, but both films were given to newcomer Clark Gable, who also got Red Dust in 1932 after it was also promised to Jack. Beatrice Fountain and other historians have examined the fact that Mayer could have been trying to get Jack to walk out on his contract so they could forfeit all of the money that they owed him for each picture being made. And they were deliberately ordering inferior films for Jack or being super careless in the selection process. Fountain also argues that most folks in Hollywood were aware of what was happening to Jack from Mayer. But again, was it all deliberate? Jack was given the chance to make 2 films that were well-received critical hits, moderate commercial ones, well-written and well-produced, in 1931 and 1932 after this, The Phantom of Paris and Downstairs. The Phantom of Paris was a beautiful production in which Jack portrayed Sherry Beebe, a French magician and escape artist that is wrongfully accused of murder and must hide out until he can clear his name and marry his beloved Cecile, played by Leela Hyams. Jack loved the script and his role, and you can definitely tell that the script and the production overall are of a higher quality than his previous talkies. Look at this clip. Cecile's father, played by C. Aubrey Smith, has forbidden her to marry Sherry Beebe. Sherry bravely stands up to her father. Jack chose to play this scene in a more restrained, subtle nature than in some of his previous roles like in Redemption. To me, it suggests the chic class of a Parisian gentleman who maintains his manners and honor even when fighting for the woman he loves. The critics gave Jack very favorable reviews for his performance here. Variety wrote, "Jack Gilbert is at his best yet in The Talkers." The New York Telegraph wrote, "No longer the great lover, Gilbert proves himself a darn good actor." A fan even wrote into Photoplay magazine, "When anyone can stir a Baltimore audience to applause, he must be great. I want to congratulate Mr. Gilbert for doing something to wake up the audience here. Mr. Gilbert, do it again." According to Beatrice Fountain, The Phantom of Paris was only a modest financial success and did not break even. Another source I found said that it made at least $1 million at the box office, but I'm assuming the amount of ticket sales weren't enough to cover the cost of the production plus his salary. But at least he had finally made a talkie that he could be proud of that seemed to please everyone. He would do that again a year later with Downstairs, but between, he made another film similar to Gentleman's Fate called West of Broadway. It concerned a rich playboy named Jerry that tries to make the woman that jilted him jealous by marrying a girl he just met, played by Lois Moran. The catch is that she wants to stay married to him because she fell quickly in love and knows she can make him love her too. It sounds like a standard formula for a talkie romance, but there is more to it. Dot, played by Moran, also wants to help Jerry get over his severe alcoholism and depression. When he flees to his western ranch, she follows and fights to win his love and his sobriety. The film eerily echoed what was sadly beginning to happen in Jack's real life at the time, as his career lows were pushing him further and further into despair that he tried to soothe with alcohol. The film was not a big box office success and not well received by critics. The Hollywood Herald wrote, "To make a man of Gilbert's former standing and favor with audiences play a yellow-livered, unchivalrous, drunken brute is just a little too much for anyone to accept and enjoy." However, Liberty Magazine wrote, "His performance is tense, sharply defined." I've said this a few times already in my entire series on John Gilbert, but again, He loved the challenge of creating a complicated character, even an unlikable one that drinks too much and ignores the devotion of his new bride. Take a look at this scene in which you can see the effort that Jack put into constructing a believable, hopeless alcoholic. Some contemporary reviewers have pondered if Jack himself was drunk during shooting and his portrayal was not acting but real, but I don't think that's the case for a few reasons. First, Jack was a professional and loved carefully constructing his characters. While he probably had some experience with the beginning stages of his own alcoholism and used those memories to build his character, I don't think he would show up drunk. At least not at this point. Co-star Ralph Bellamy agreed and wrote he was a very professional and was right there every day working under very difficult circumstances. What I saw when I watched West of Broadway was again Jack's careful construction of this alcoholic playboy character. Did he use his own memories to help his portrayal? Probably. But it worked, and he again brought about an intense sense of realism to his performance. Jack did get to move on to a film very special to him after West of Broadway, 1932's Downstairs, a film which he wrote the story for and had been pitching to MGM for years. Now, Thalberg finally gave him the chance. Again, Jack played another anti-hero, a rather unsympathetic character, the kind that he loved, named Carl, a chauffeur that takes advantage of everyone in his employer's house for his own selfish reasons. He pretends to love the cook to get her money. He blackmails the wife of the boss and tries to seduce the innocent young maid newly married to the butler. While Carl definitely sounds like a terrible person, there were, of course, some charm and class there in his portrayal of him. He was the scoundrel that you love to hate and or love to watch wreak havoc and bring problems to the rich. Check out this clip where Carl shows up to Anna's room, the butler's wife and maid, at her window to continue his seduction. On the surface, it is rather innocent, but look further into Jack's mannerisms and the way he casually flirts with Anna before quickly leaving. In addition to Downstairs being special to Jack because he wrote it, it also gave him the chance to make a comment on the class struggle between servants and the rich, while again creating an anti-hero leading character. Downstairs was unfortunately not the career triumph that Jack had hoped it would be. Variety wrote that this impression of Gilbert is so unsympathetic, otherwise he is quite effective in such dashing, roguishly romantic moments as they are. Other reviews agree that his acting was stellar, but Carl was too unlikable in his mistreatment of others. But two good things did come out of Downstairs. First, it would be defined by many later film historians as Jack's masterpiece on the screen that was ahead of its time. Second, Jack met and married Virginia Bruce, who played Anna, a marriage that briefly brought him great happiness and a break from his despair, along with a second daughter. But unfortunately, it did not last. Jack went into 1933 still determined to work, even though he was still battling depression and a new alcoholism in his personal life. He also rejoiced because he had reached the final film in his MGM contract and could be free to move on afterward. This film was Fast Workers, based on a play about construction workers that risk their lives to work on high-rises and the deals that they try to land while they're off the job. Jack played Gunner, one such worker who, along with his friend and coworker, played by Robert Armstrong, enjoyed pulling small-time heists and scams in the evening to score some quick cash. Along the way, Gunner and Bucker both meet and fall in love with Mary, played by Mae Clark, who also is in on the game of extorting others out of their money. It's a comedy-drama film that gave Jack the opportunity to again make Gunner rather complicated. The moments of comedy involve his sophisticated manipulation of victims out of their money. The drama comes from the complications that ensue when both men fall in love with Mary and someone gets hurt. Fast Workers also saw Jack in one of his most effective talky romantic performances, in my opinion. Gunner loves Mary, but is also a realist about money and the cost of living. In this clip, you can see Gunner's love for Mary is clear, but his sadness about the financial situation and his probable inability to support her in the manner in which he is accustomed show through the subtle sadness in his voice, on his face, and in his physicality. Fast Workers is available to buy and rent on iTunes or DVD, and I highly recommend it because it was very good. Unfortunately, the film received mixed reviews, and some critics said Jack did well with weak material or did well even though he was miscast, while others critiqued his performance. All in all, it lost money at the box office. Jack thought that he was almost washed up afterward its release and desperately awaited another job offer or opportunity. And as luck would have it, it came from MGM of all places. He initially had been asked to come in and read with Garbo for her new film, Queen Christina, as it was her first film in months and she was nervous. This favor turned into a screen test, which turned into Jack being offered the male lead as Garbo's love interest, Antonio. According to Jack's close friend Colleen Moore, Garbo insisted on paying Jack back for all the help he gave her at the start of her career by insisting to Mare that he be cast or she'd walk again. As usual, her bravery paid off and Jack got the part. It was actually the first of Jack's performances that I saw years ago and where I first began to appreciate his work as an actor. His portrayal of Antonio, the Spanish ambassador that captures the heart of Garbo's Queen Christina of Sweden, was delightful and not only allowed the screen's two greatest lovers to reunite, but allowed them to create scenes of comedy, drama, romance, and tragedy like only the two of them could do together. The film received generally positive reviews, particularly for Garbo, and did modestly well at the box office. The New York Times even said, "Gilbert is much more restrained than he was in his silent films," which seemed to be a compliment about the subtlety of his performance here. But while Mare allowed him to make the film, it didn't mean he had to promote him. If you look up the trailer of Queen Christina on YouTube, you will notice that Gilbert, the male lead, is missing from it. The film didn't do a thing, sadly, to help with Jack's career, although it has achieved a wonderful cult following over the years, and is considered to be some of Garbo's best work and one of the best films of all time, which has brought Jack to the attention of more fans who can now appreciate his other films. In 1934, Jack got one more chance to star in a film, this time from Columbia chief Harry Cohn, who hired him and wanted to make him a star again. His first and only film at Columbia was The Captain Hates the Sea, a look into the lives of a group of people traveling on a boat, sort of like Grand Hotel meets Love Boat, if you will. Jack played an alcoholic author taking a restful vacation. It was a good performance, though it and the film did not get very much attention. Jack also reportedly had trouble staying sober while shooting the film and seemed to have slipped into despair and depression, before he managed to keep out of his professional work, but now he could not escape from. He knew that this was his last film, apparently. Later that year, Marlene Dietrich came into Jack's life as an angel of mercy. She began to help him get sober and tried to find him work. She even got him a color screen test, seen here. But he was already too ill and tragically died of a heart attack brought about by alcoholism on January 9th, 1936. He was just 39. According to Leatrice Fountain, the nurse that Jack had hired to care for him was reckless and left him alone, where he suffered the attack and choked to death in his sleep. Jack's premature death is one of the greatest tragedies to come out of Hollywood and ranks right up there with the deaths of Judy Garland and others, as some of the most heartbreaking examples of how fragile personalities can snap under the intense pressure of the Hollywood studio star system during the golden age of Hollywood. Marlene Dietrich was still working hard to cure Jack and get him back to work at the time of his death, and had even secured him a role in her film Desire, and was probably the one responsible for getting his name put in for consideration for Rhett Butler in Gone with the Wind. After the tragedy of Jack's death, again, we are left with the question, how did he go from being one of the biggest stars in the world at the end of the silent era to an almost complete reversal of that in the talkies? Well, first of all, in a way, it wasn't a complete reversal. As film historian Janine Basinger has pointed out, his talkies were all moderately successful. They just paled in comparison to box office bonanza hits like The Big Parade or Merry Widow. But why did Jack have so much trouble with maintaining his image and stardom in the talkies? I think it's a combination of many factors. Number one, although it was justified, his altercation with Mare was definitely a negative. Either Mare set out to destroy him like he said, or he just lost interest in him, which left the conditions in which Jack's productions were chosen and completed to be sloppy and careless. Unlike the perfect vehicles that were chosen and produced for Garbo, Norma Shearer, Joan Crawford, Marie Dressler, and other MGM silent-to-talkie stars, Jack seemed to be left more up to chance. Unfortunately, the carelessness through which the studio seemed to handle Jack's productions made enough of a difference to affect both critics and audience members alike, and Jack's career just couldn't hold up. It was truly unfair what happened to Jack Gilbert. The only slight beam of light that has befallen his talkie career now is that it can be revisited by a new generation and appreciated. Luckily, people like me, and hopefully you, can look at Jack's work now and appreciate just how much of an artist he truly was, and how carefully he constructed his characters to make each and every one of them different and nuanced. Jack was sure to never play a stock character and never gave a repeat performance, ever, a fact that we can only admire so many years after his death. The real last laugh is that Jack has gotten, the real last laugh that Jack has gotten is that his reputation as an actor has only gone up in the last 30 years, and I think that makes him the real winner of the story here. Most of Jack's surviving silent films are available to see on YouTube. Most of Jack's talking films are also on DVD. Some are available on Amazon as well as other places. Check IMDb and go to each of his films to see where they could be streaming. Please watch them all and tell your friends about this amazing actor that we lost way too soon. Join me next week as I investigate the silent talkie career of Virginia Brown Fair. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope you have a wonderful day.